Welcome to my channel, and I want to dedicate this video to all my works in the books by K.Rosanes. For now I own 4 of them, so it's not a full collection of all his books. And let's have a look at the first one. I have Imagimorphia. It was one of the first books which I purchased from Book Depository when I discovered this shop and when I just started my coloring journey, so it was quite many years ago. And I liked this book. At that moment I purchased one of the books from many artists, trying to discover which style I prefer, which publishers I love, and I liked this book, but definitely Rosanes wasn't included in my top 5, maybe even top 10 list of my favorite artists. Yes, I liked the style, how he do animals, how he did architectural details, but I absolutely didn't like all those doodles, creatures, and I saw reviews for the other books which were published together with Imagimorphia, where you had to draw something from yourself to fill in areas, and I realized that it's actually not my favorite part of coloring and that I can be perfectly happy with just Imagimorphia. I like this edition. I tested several medias here. I realized that I can color with Inktense, even with watercolor, but I was sure that I absolutely don't need any more books by Kirby and that I am more interested in the works by other artists. Still, I colored in this book, so let's have a look at all these pictures. Here you can see that, as usual, I do my tests. That's all those strange hidden objects which always distract me. For me, they are disadvantaged, but at least here they are not so terrible as in mythographic series. But I simply didn't like all those doodles. Here we have many of my old works. I still love many of them because some of them were quite memorable for me. Here I tried to color something white without leaving it actually white. So here I tested how I can use other pastel colors to show at least some shading on the white animal. From the very beginning I really appreciated style of Kirby, that he always had a very delicate shading, hinting us where we need to put actual shadows, and on the animals his delicate shading it's very helpful to create texture of fur or skin, so I really love his style. You can see that this one was slightly messed up because I think that maybe I used white paint here for the dots, and here they look nice, but when I put the book on the shelf they pressed onto black surface of the matte acrylic paint, and now this area it looks a little bit dirty, but it's not that I'm very disappointed by this one. I realized from the very beginning that if you want to color in Kirby's books you need a lot of time because they are extremely detailed, and that's the first earlier books, and in the last books you will need even more time, but I don't mind. So that was the style of the pictures which I realized I don't want to color because I love eagle, but to color this mess up it's definitely not for me. I enjoyed finding some nice objects like birds or dinosaurs or some big elements, but then to color all those swirls and those strange round doodles, that's definitely not for me. So I have a lot of pictures which are nice, partly, but the rest of the page I absolutely didn't want to color, and that's the style of the pictures which is absolutely not for me. That's why for a long time I didn't want to purchase anything more from Kirby. That was a page, one of my very first ones. Here I tested my Colleen pencils, which I purchased from Etsy, I believe, and at the moment I didn't have Prismacolors, so I was impressed how soft and how well blendable Colleen pencils were, but they broke so easily that it was a nightmare to color with them. So I liked their brightness and softness, but they were very fragile. Still, I love this spread. You can see that from the very beginning I tended to use all existent colors for one page. It's my biggest problem that my pictures, they are extremely colorful. It's very difficult to limit myself in color selection. And here we have this page, which is still probably the most popular video on my YouTube channel. It's very strange. I don't know why this tail, which I did using Inktense pencils together with Faber-Castell children's pencils for the background, maybe a little bit with Derwent color softs. So at the moment I didn't have polychromos, Prismacolors. I used whatever I had, but still it's one of the most popular videos on my YouTube channel, and any videos I did later never reached such amount of views. For me it's disappointing and strange, so I realized that I never can understand YouTube policy. Still, this I remember that I did it simply for relaxation, not expecting nothing from such a strange page. And why it's so popular, I don't know. Many of other pictures in this book I love much more. This one I did after I got my set of Derwent drawing pencils. You know that Derwent drawings with their natural colors, they are good not only for fur and hair, feathers, but they also are very good for landscapes, architecture, and here I used them and I enjoyed it a lot. I think that it was one of my first attempts to use a watercolor as first layer, so I did it for the camel, and then I added texture with the short hair, short fur with pencils, and I decided to add a couple of pyramids on the background because it looked extremely empty. Well, that's not bad. Now probably I would do background in slightly different way. I don't remember it was pencils or maybe it was soft pastel, but now I would do it maybe with more solid colors, with watercolors, but still I like it a lot because at that moment I struggled with doing fur and normal texture on the animals, so I was quite proud when I did this background. I absolutely love this architecture, which reminded me about Cambodia, Angkor Wat, which I wanted to visit for such a long time, and it's still my dream. Well, so this one I definitely love. That's probably just one page which I still want to color in this book. Maybe I will change my mind and some other pictures will also attract me, but having latest books by Kirby, which are for me 10 times better, maybe even 12 times better, I don't think that I will return to this book quite frequently. But still, my next page I also love. Here again I practiced how to do all those white feathers, white objects, so I really love this one. Also, it was one of the first successful experiments how to do metal, how to do gold. The background again I did with soft pastel. At the moment I didn't have enough patience to do background with pencils or enough experience to do background with watercolors, so soft pastel was my favorite medium at the moment. Here I started something, then I realized that maybe one page I want to color, but 2 pages I'm not sure if I want to do it, so it was abandoned. Here it was interesting experiment, and I still like this page because everything here was colored with Derwent drawing pencils. You know that they have how many 24 colors, so palette is very limited and it has very muted, very natural looking colors but without bright pencils, so it was a challenge to color such a spread with such pencils. So I'm very happy that I managed to do it. Very old work, but still one of the most interesting steps in my coloring life. I still like it. And it was the moment when I realized that I totally in love with these pencils. Here again you can see that if I am interested in one page, quite often I don't have enough patience to finish the other part. Here it was interesting to color water. I used watercolors to color penguins. Here I think that I also used for the waves Derwent Inktense pencils and Derwent color softs for the bright elements, for the fishes, for the shells. But to color similar thing, all those doodles on the left, I realized that I won't enjoy it, so I abandoned it. Here again I practiced something I wanted to do, the ghost of the ship here, so it's semi-transparent. Here I practiced how to do it. Then I tried to do some kind of the storm, of the blizzard on the sky, and something went wrong with the paper. I didn't like how I don't remember, maybe Inktense pencils, how they behaved here, or maybe some watercolor pencils. So I practiced what I wanted to, and I decided that maybe I won't finish it, but still I like it, but simply something went wrong with the coverage of the paper, and I didn't want to do the second time to cover all those areas. So here problem was with the paper. And finally I have another page where I was very proud of myself. It started from the challenge. I think that here I tried to use some of my Derwent color softs. They behaved badly on the mountains and on the green elements. Then I switched to Prismacolors. I already had Prismacolors. Also it was interesting experiment with gouache background. It was challenging how to do this gradient, how to mix those pastel and muted gouache colors. When I did it, I had only primary colors, and I wasn't experienced how to do from primary colors those pleasant pastel shades, so it was challenging. Then I decided that here behind panda I want to add mountains, so it also my own addition. And this spread I love. It's also one of my old works. If you want to, I will leave you a link in the end of this video, because all this coloring is on my YouTube channel. Here again I really appreciated that Kirby already put texture on the white fur of panda. I just added a little bit of gray, beige, slightly more yellowish shading around eyes, around nose, and I didn't need to do a lot of work on the fur. And that's probably all I have in this book. This one, it was very popular, so when I finally thought maybe I can do it, I saw so many pictures already finished of this page that I decided that I already colored it with my eyes. And after this I had a lot of for a long time I didn't think about purchasing any other books by Kirby. There were Phantomorphia, Geomorphia. My next interest in Kirby's works was when he published Mythomorphia. But at the moment I had some problems with ordering from Book Depository. They lost a couple of my orders. I didn't want to do a next purchase. before the previous were resolved, and meanwhile everyone around colored mythomorphia, and for several months I saw everything colored so many times that I decided that I won't be able to have any of my own ideas for mythomorphia, even if the book was interesting. You know that I love the theme of the myths to color and I love the art, but I decided that I won't purchase the book. But when the next one was published, I realized that it's probably the next level in the art by Kirby, and now his books, they are definitely in my top 3 list. And now I know that I I will purchase all his next books, and books which I own now: Waltz Within Waltz, Fragile World, and Mythic World. They are definitely one of the gemstones of my collection. So now let's have a look what I managed to color in Waltz Within Waltz. Here I had similar problem with everyone coloring in this book and creating such a beautiful pictures that I really tried to limit myself and not to look at the others' works, because I really didn't want to copy, especially to copy when you saw something beautiful, then after a couple of months you manage to forget that it was some other's idea. You use it yourself, and then it looks like you copied without properly crediting the real artist. So I was trying to be very careful, and now when I color in this book I really try to check if I copy or it's my own idea. In A Waltz Within Waltz, I have a big shameful secret, but actually it's not a secret, it's a spread which I started with a big inspiration, and I was really interested in testing various pencils here. I tried to select several most important main objects like those octopus, giant whales and other fishes. Then it was the moment when I received my sets of pastel colors like Black Widow and Castle Arts, so I tried to use more of them on the seaweeds, on the corals. And my last step had to be to color remaining palaces, castles, and to do the background. I wanted to incorporate somehow this background with the central part, and I decided to use watercolors because watercolor is the easiest way when you need to do water background. And I was very unpleasantly surprised how my paper behaved. I realized that this edition is plume. It doesn't like water at all, and the paper absorbed pigment of the watercolor so quickly that I didn't have couple of seconds to be able to spread pigment to create something normal of the background. Here I have those stains. Maybe you can't see them because I tried to mask them a little bit with pencils on top. So after this unpleasant surprise, I abandoned this book. I know that I abandoned this spread. I know that it's not a good thing, and that with some patience and with couple of light blue pencils I will be able to do simple blue background like I started to do it here. I even selected those pencils, shades of blue which I simply need to be able to color this background, and then I will finish those castles and palaces. But I don't know why I still don't have any inspiration to do it. Maybe I will try to show you here those stains. I'm not sure if you will be able to see them. I have them here. They are not very ugly because I knew that I have to be careful when I started to use watercolors for the first time here. And I was fortunate that I wanted to do it with very light blue, but still somehow it was a moment when I stopped to work on this spread, but I hope that One day I will return to it because it's the rest of the page I really love. But the first page which I actually did in this book, it was the lantern. This one. Here I used polychromases, and I absolutely fall in love how polychromos pencils behave on this paper. So majority of my pictures in the last three books by Kirby, they are colored with polychromases. I only add Prismacolors if I need some unique color like light pastel colors, or if I want to use something light for blending. Here I immediately realized that I want to play on the contrast between warm colors which we have inside of this something not tropical, maybe it was Arabian tent, and inside we have a lantern with cold colors, with iceberg penguins. So I really pleased how everything turned. It was a lot of work to show properly all the objects which we have around, to stay in a limited color palette. Even the background I did with pencils. You can recognize all those Venetian red, Pompeian red, cinnamon, sanguine colors from Prismacolor set. So that was the beginning. Then I think that I did this night page with antelope probably. Here my idea was to show two parts of the village. Here we have a village beneath the sun. Here we have a village beneath the moonlight. And it was quite fun to step out of the comfort zone and finally to color something without green leaves. I selected several shades of blue and blue-violet, and I used them for the leaves. I tried to find something which resembled flowers, and I colored them with red and yellow. I like it. On the head of the antelope it wasn't a lot of work because everything was did by Kirby. Very helpful already to have texture. And the only thing, I don't remember, did I use Prismacolors or Prismacolors plus polychromases on the background? So maybe I could be a little bit more careful in my shading, but you know that pencil background, it's not my strong side. Another spread which I did here, it was this huge underwater realm, underwater palace. Here I used mix of pencils because here on the stones and columns I used a lot of Prismacolors. I definitely think you can recognize Great Lavender Clay Rose here. But for the upper part, with all those tiny creatures, fishes, corals, of course it was easier to color with polychromases and with their finer tips of the pencils. When I finished it, I was thinking that maybe this upper part is too colorful, that if I would do those caves with more limited color palette, then you would pay more attention to the colorful fishes. But in the end I decided that if I enjoyed coloring process, then it's okay, and I was proud that I managed to finish such a detailed huge spread with pencils. Yeah, it was disappointment when I realized that I will have to limit myself with pencils first, but then I realized that if I can't use watercolors, I can use acrylic paints for the background. And that's what I did here for the background around this space compass. I used acrylic as a first layer, and then on top of it I worked with pencils. It's still one of my favorite works in the whole book. You know that I love to color metals, I love to color golds, and I had nice possibility to practice here. Of course it was complicated to color those planets and creatures around them, but the most challenging part was the background around the sun. I wanted to transform part of the compass into something like real light halo around the sun, and I hope that I managed to do it. Even again, somehow my shading is not perfect, but I try to work on it. So I really love this one, and it's one of my favorite works in this book. I color in this book only when I am sure that I have something very original in mind, that I don't copy anyone's work, so that's why I have not too many finished pictures here. Where are all my bookmarks? Well, this one I started when I saw a very nice reference picture from, it wasn't a hermit crab, but a variety when those first two legs, arms, they were in slightly different color comparing to the rest of the body. I decided that I want to use it also on my crab. Then I decided that I am tired from the traditional blue skies and that I want to practice something else. And with this beginning I started to do this page. Many of the areas here I do love, all those stones, body of the crab. The only thing I wasn't sure about is the area of the background which I colored the last area of the sand. Maybe I had to use more blue colors to do area of the water here, not only sand. I wanted to show shading on the sand from the body of the crab, maybe some steps, but I'm not sure that I managed to do it properly. And honestly, it was the last area which I colored. And usually when I have a very detailed and big picture on the last area, sometimes I lost my patience. I can lose my inspiration, or I am simply tired from it. It's better to have a break and to finish it. But when you are impatient and you want to finish it, sometimes you mess up the last area. And unfortunately, the sand here, I can't say that I am very happy. Well, let's move forward. Here I have a page which I love. I am not a big fan of snakes, but again I saw a nice picture with a beautiful pattern on the body of the snake, all those black, white and red patterns, and I decided that I can use it in Rosanes books, because these colors, they can be easily transformed into colors on the train. I do love this transformation from the snake to the train. That's why I decided that I want to do this page. Again, I tried to practice to do something apart from the green leaves, or at least to use different color combos on the leaves. Here I again used more of Prismacolor's softer pencils on the background and polychromasis on the main objects. Next I have pictures which I definitely consider as a pair. First I did this collage page, which we have as the last page in the book. I love to color collage pages because it's like resolving some kind of puzzle when you need to color each of the elements in its own way, but in the end they all have to be combined in the well-balanced composition on one picture. Here I did different textures. Here we have metal, here I tried to imitate stone. I really tried to use similar colors in the different areas, like blue here and here, similar sky here and here, similar colors on the buildings, similar colors on the armor, on the unicorn and the dragon. So it was complicated work, but I absolutely enjoyed each and every moment. Then after a couple of months I looked at another page here, and I actually realized that they are parts of the same story. We have many similar elements, similar tree, similar gears, and we have the beginning of the dragon's body. When I published them on the social media, this one on the left and this one On the right you can clearly see that they will create nicely connected parts of the dragon body, like this one. So I used here many similar colors. It's good that I create videos, so it's easy for me to check which colors I already used. And the only thing I had to work onto is this magical globe in the middle. Here I used a lot of Prismacolors for the pastel shades, and I think that I definitely also can be proud of this one. I love both of these pictures. And it was a good practice to do golden gears on the first one and more silver or metal gears here, with a little bit of rust even. And finally I have the dinosaur spread. I hope that we will manage to go fully into the screen. Here it was huge. I don't know what I was thinking. I definitely wasn't thinking clear because I did it in March. I enjoyed the calming movements on the pencil over the paper, so I did the background with pencils and everything else. Here again we have mix of Prismacolors, which I used more on the background, and polychromos pencils. Again, I am happy that I managed to avoid doing green leaves and that my leaves, they are blue and golden, especially the ginkgo tree leaves. I do love them. And those space wings of the pterodactyl dinosaurs, it was quite fun to color. Well, maybe I have not many works finished here, but I want to do more. I can't decide between two spreads here. I want to do Egyptian spread with Gore God, or I want to do the first one with the dinosaur, but you can imagine how long it will take to finish it, so I'm still a little bit reluctant to start it, but I think that dinosaur will win. Next, I have my fragile world. This one I received from different source. I purchased it on Amazon France, and it's by Lom Art. Here I realized that I actually can use a little bit of a watercolor carefully. And it was a big help because definitely I think that in fragile world where we have a lot of pictures with background of sky or watercolor, they are extremely helpful. I already started to think that maybe in my world within worlds I need to use more of acrylic and gouache paints, which it's easier to use if you can't use watercolors. But we are talking now about fragile world, and here on many pictures I indeed used watercolors, at least for the background. My first work, it was those amazing birds from South America. They are very easy to color, and I decided to start from something simplified, just a little bit of color on their white feathers on the neck. They have amazing bright feathers on the head and funny red eyes. It's so interesting to learn about new species, about areas where they live, and I hope that all those creatures, they won't be endangered. So we will take care of them. Here I have this watercolor background on the sky, from regular blue paint to more granulating paint with a lot of water here near the horizon, because I was afraid that to use all blue for the sky and blue for the water, it would be very boring. So I added this dusky pink here, and I am glad that I did it. The rest I did with Prisma and polychromos water with polychromos pencils. Here I have those Tasmanian devils, interesting creatures, and I try to show that they are living in relative heat, and that's why I selected such colors for the background. Again, if it's possible, I try to avoid to do blue or green backgrounds and to experiment with something new. I do love them, even if sometimes I think that I did maybe too dark fur on them. Maybe I had to work better on the highlights, but still I am very happy each time when I finish new page here, and when one by one I can add finished projects here. Next, I wanted to do this one, but that definitely will be a spread which I will color with watercolors. I think that somewhere in August or in September I will do this one, maybe even in July. But for this Hector's dolphins, I used only pencils, and you can imagine again that it was a long story to finish this one. Here I used some of my favorite colors for the water, but I also added more green highlights on the waves, and I added more yellow greens to the sky. Again, because when I color such pictures, you need to invent something apart from using all blue colors for the water and for the area of the sky. Here in this corner I wasn't very happy how my cobalt pencil behaved. I don't know why it created some stains, but what can I say? At least I was happy with the dolphins and water, and if pencils don't want to work on the paper, sometimes you just need to accept it. Next, let's have a look at this whale shark. Here I used mostly watercolors because I realized that I don't want to repeat a previous experience, and apart from the water I had to color all those tiny, not very interesting fishes, the food for the whale shark, and I decided that with watercolors it could be much quicker. I decided to work on this swirl in the middle and doing darker water in the corners. I thought that in such a way the background could look more interesting and to attract more attention to the central part with the shark. Well, the body of the shark was too easy to color, where Kirby already made this unique texture with white dots on the gray body. On the head it wasn't so nicely done by Kirby, and by myself I didn't manage to do it properly, so I can't say that I'm proud of the head of the shark. The rest, well, it's not bad. It wasn't my favorite picture in the book, so I'm glad that I did it, and that's all. And next I have this beautiful eagle. I really enjoyed doing all those feathers, trying to select different shades of brown colors. As usual, I don't use one color for the feather. I need at least a couple of them, darker and lighter. Here we have classic brown colors, here we have more yellowish brown. Of course, each time I try to look and to study reference pictures, and it's very helpful both in doing the main image. I also try to look at the pictures from the area where animal or bird lives, trying to select proper colors for the background. So here I have a little bit of landscape, and I think that I'm quite happy how I did those clouds and small area of the pink sky. Everything again is made with mix of Prismacolors and polychromases. Next, I think that I want to show you my penguins and frogs. Here on the penguins I used watercolors first as a basic layer for the sky, for the stones, and even for the penguin. Then I worked with pencils. You know that to color white and black it's always challenging if you want to show some highlights, some color reflections, additional color accents, so it was a good practice. And very helpful was to select different grays, warm gray, French gray, cold grays, and to use them for the stones, for the white feathers, slightly different shades on the adult penguin and on the young child penguin. Well, it was nice. Even maybe not very interesting because all colors are muted, just a couple of bright areas. But I can't say the same thing about the right side. Here we have a lot of bright colors. Usually I prefer to start from the background, but here I started from frogs and flowers. I did all of them, and then I realized that I don't want to color background and leaves with pencils. Enough was enough. So for the background I used a very helpful and very beautiful watercolor paint created by Ukrainian manufacturer Rosa. They have unique black-green color. I love it a lot, and for such kind of background it was very helpful. I think the dark background helped all those flowers and frogs to pop up. For the leaves I simply used green colors, mixed a little bit with blue, a little bit with yellow to create some color difference. Paper behaved strangely. In some of the areas watercolor behaved nicely, but in some of the areas there were those famous strange dots. You know that in many books, even when paper looks quite sturdy and thick, sometimes after applying watercolors it can create dots. But here on the leaves it didn't mess up with the whole image, so I simply accepted that sometimes paper it can behave nicely like it did here, but sometimes it can behave strange. Anyway, I think that my next project in this book it will be those lemurs, and I again plan to use a lot of watercolors for the background. Again, I will try to be careful with green colors. And next spread, it was probably one of the first which I did after beginning of the war. Again, I don't think that I was thinking clearly at the moment, so my only thought was to play with colors, to play with pencils, without thinking a lot about color planning, about something else. I played with bright colors. Both backgrounds were made with watercolors, and on both backgrounds later I worked with pencils also. Here my favorite part probably was the body of the bee. I hope that it looks really fluffy and quite nice. And here my favorite part to color all those hibiscus flowers, because I love them in real life and I was happy to find them in the book. Well, I don't know, but I love the spread and it really helped me, like I kind of coloring therapy at the moment. Finally, I will show you my last finished project here, which I finished in the beginning of the month, but more specifically we will talk about it in my final June video about all my finished works, but I consider this one as one of my best finished so far. As I said, as my next projects here, I think about those lemurs or this spread with birds. Of course, I looked at the reference pictures. Birds themselves, they are not very bright, but somehow I was very attracted to those flowers. I want to color them as lavender. I don't care if lavender grows in the area where those birds live, but here the stones, plants, they for me are even more interesting comparing to the birds themselves. Sorry, birds. But that's my second best choice for now, and I just need to decide, do I have enough patience to color this with pencils, or I will continue my experimenting with watercolors. Now when I'm reunited with my Derwent drawing pencils, which are perfect for stones, for the wood, I definitely will try to use them more. And I have one page here which I absolutely intend to do with those pencils. I'm talking about this one. And finally, now my biggest favorite is the Mythic Vault. Amazing book, and definitely I consider it as a one of the best in my collection and a gemstone among the Kirby's works. You probably heard this beautiful news that the next one, which will be published probably next spring, I think that Kirby already has shown the cover and it's beautiful. It's something new because it will be about Alliance world, unusual, interesting, and of course I plan to purchase it. Well, if everything goes well here and if I still able to color at the moment of publishing it. But anyway, this one I consider as one of the best books. You know that my criteria for one of the best books, it's, as I usually say, that you can take away all my other books and I still will be happy and never bored to color this one from the beginning to the end. And I can clearly say it about this book. For now, I have huge plans about these books, and so far I managed to do just one. I finished it just yesterday. I absolutely enjoyed doing this one. So I think that you will see this book in my next videos very frequently. I am very grateful for the gift because I received it in very dark time and it cheered me so much. The book is beautiful. I love how my pencils behaved here. I don't think that in this book it's by Lom Art, but this style of pictures, I don't need watercolors here, and if needed I can always practice to work with my gouache and acrylic paints. Another nice hint that I need to use these paints more frequently. So perfect book, and I can definitely I recommend it. I hope that at the moment when the next one will be published, I will have many more finished pictures in my Kirby books, so the next purchase will be very well justified. Thank you. I hope that it wasn't very boring. I am really happy that after not being very interested in Kirby's art for several years, the last 3 books, for me, they were definitely included in my favorite lists and I enjoy each and every of them. I don't intend to abandon Fragile or Waltz Within Waltz now when I am really invested into this one. So I hope that I will manage to balance between all those 3 books. Thank you, and until my next videos.